Hey, what's going on, guys? I wanted to give you guys a story about how I paid off $9,000 of debt and give you some little nuggets of information about making money along the way. Back in 2009, I found myself alone in my house after a divorce, and I needed to pay off my bills, and I was really struggling financially. I mentioned in another video that I had a Geo Metro, and that was a saving grace for me because it was low cost on gas, low cost on maintenance, you know, tires, all that stuff, insurance. And I had so very little money at the time, I couldn't even afford to replace the tire on my car. I was actually driving around on one of those donut tires for like 2 months until I could afford a $40 tire. So I knew that something had to change. I was alone in my house, and I had a pretty good house for sharing half the house. The house was a split floor plan, which means that the master bedroom is on one side and the kids' bedrooms are on the other side. So because I only had the kids part-time, I actually started staying with the kids on their side, and then we all sort of like bunked and camped out. And then on the other side, I rented the entire master bedroom, the master suite, and a single car garage. So it was a pretty unique house. It was a new build in Arizona, and I had a single car on one side, and then I had a double car garage on the other side. So the renter or the roommate got the single car garage, the master bedroom, and then we shared the living areas such as the living room, the family room, and the kitchen. So it worked out great for all of us. Now the next part of the story doesn't really apply to many people because I was in the military. However, you can still get some nuggets of information and use that information in your life the best that you can. So because I was in the Air Force, I had the ability to deploy. I kept hearing about how so many people make money when they deploy, and I wanted to check it out for myself. I checked out the figures, and I learned that when you deploy, you only get about $350 more per month. So I wasn't really convinced that you make money. But I did know that I was spending a lot of money just on a daily basis, and I was spending, at the time, I was spending a lot of money on my kids, you know, on gas, going out, and all that stuff on a daily basis. I do not regret spending money on my kids because, in fact, that's exactly what I wanted to do. With me being in the military, I knew that any day I would have to, you know, pack up and ship out in a moment's notice. And whenever they were with me, I just basically asked them, well, guys, what do you want to do? We could go to Wet and Wild, we can go to church. The church was like a mega church, and every weekend they were having some crazy activities. And I really liked it, the kids really liked it as well. So we were always doing things and going out, and I tried to be as cheap as possible. You know, we would pack lunches and eat at Burger King. We'd get like 10 burgers for, I don't know, 10 bucks or something, you know, try to use coupons here and there. But I knew that the money was just going so fast. I understand this next part sounds kind of strange because I actually wanted to deploy for not only to save money, but it sounds kind of weird that I'm actually leaving my kids for a while. So that was tough, but at the same time, it was rewarding to serve my country. So I wanted to go out and deploy because so many of my coworkers were deploying, and they would come back and, you know, they would say they had a little bit more money or whatever. It wasn't really important, but I just felt like I wasn't serving as much as I could have or as much as I should have. You know, the other guys would come back and they have a ribbon on their uniform, and I was always at home, and I just wasn't doing as much as I should. I didn't want to move on a permanent basis to be away from my kids. I also knew that if I deployed, I could possibly stay in my current location, which was Phoenix, Arizona, on a longer basis. So the more times that you rotate out, the more time that you're actually extended at your home base. And that's really what I was hoping for. So I deployed, and I received not much more money. I think it was only about $350 per month. But the amount of money that I saved on a regular basis was just astonishing to me. Every time I got paid, the money would just sit there. I had nothing to spend it on. When you're deployed, they pay for absolutely everything. You go to the chow hall, you know, also called the dining facility. So you go to the chow hall, and you have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, whatever you want, it's all paid for. You don't have to pay for gas. There's really no entertainment there unless the USO comes. We actually saw Kid Rock when I was deployed, and that was pretty awesome. As the days were counting on, my money just sat there in the account. I didn't use it at all. Let's say I got paid $2,000 and maybe $1,800 was still left at the end of 2 weeks. At the end of my deployment, I had $9,000 saved, and it felt great coming back. I want to share with you guys a little story about this young lady that was just killing it when she was there. So I was there as a tech sergeant. I was there about at my 15-year mark, and there I was, I had a degree. I was halfway done with another degree. I was maybe like 35 years old. Let's just say, for example, I was making $50,000 a year. Maybe less, maybe $45,000 a year. I was very comfortable in my career, and I was very proud of who I was, what I had accomplished, and where I was going in the future, and for my service. However, there was a young lady there that I met in the coffee shop, and she told me that she was there for work as a contractor, and we just kind of talked a little bit for about an hour and a half, and she had the easiest job probably in the entire Air Force, but she was working in the deployed location at Qatar Air Base, also called Al Udeid. Her job was to pass out bed sheets. I kid you not, that's all she did. She was in a building all by herself. People would bring their dirty bed sheets and they'd throw it in the bin for wash. They would also go to the other side of the room, grab the sheets that were already wrapped up in plastic and sorted and everything else, and they would grab that and walk out. And she just kind of like monitored the building. I think occasionally she would pass out an additional pillow or something like that. She didn't wash the bed sheets, she didn't fold them, she didn't do anything. All that was contracted out. The great thing about her job though is that she made $80,000, and at possibly the easiest job in the Air Force. If she did the exact same job in Iraq, she would have made over $100,000 just for being there. So she was crushing it. Also, she was taking college classes online. And I had to think, wow, how many people, how many young adults actually put themselves in this situation just to get that start off in life. Not only is she making a great start with college, but she's also making an very impressive salary at $80,000. There's really no way to spend money unless you buy an occasional coffee at the coffee shop. So she's gonna come back to the United States, maybe with 5, 10, 15 college credits under her belt and $80,000. And I gotta tell you, that is a life changer for anybody, for me, for her. And I mean, she could run out and buy a house, she could pay for the rest of her degree. So I really applaud her for doing that. That was just outstanding. And I couldn't help to notice that she was making a lot more than me. Her dad sent her the link about contract jobs, and she went for it. And there she was, like, let's say 19 years old, and she was crushing it. I was like 35 years old, maybe making, close to half, and she really put me in my place. Of course, I still felt proud of who I was and what I did and for serving, but I have to tell you, she was serving as well. I understand that not a lot of you are in the Air Force and you don't have the opportunity to deploy, but there are opportunities out there for everybody to work. In this area, there's a lot of temporary jobs, and those jobs can often lead to permanent jobs. But more than that, there are still contract jobs that are available overseas. And keep in mind also that her job was at the bottom of the barrel. Like, she had no experience, no education, no skills, and she was making $80,000. If you have any type of skills, let's say you drive a bus, you're a welder, you're an electrician, and you take those jobs that are overseas, as a contractor, you're gonna be making a lot of money. And then if you go to Iraq, you'll be making even more money. Also, the takeaway here, guys, is that people have to hustle. Sometimes you have to hustle and go overseas. Sometimes you have to take that job that takes you far away. Basically, you have to be out of your comfort zone sometimes in order to make money. The second area I want to talk about is saving money. At that time, I also reduced my bills. I cut my cable bill, I cut my phone bill, and this is at a time when people were just using the Nokia cell phones, and people still had two phones. They had their house phone and their cell phone bill. The only bill that I did keep was the internet bill. But getting back to my deployment, this is where I saved so much of my money. Often people in the Air Force would get rid of their apartment so they didn't have any type of rental expenses when they would deploy. I had my house, I wanted to keep my house. I did the best thing that I could though, and that was to rent half of my house. Often people will go out and buy a car after their deployment because they have so much money saved up, and I think that's just ridiculous. Because I was in such financial need, I went ahead and paid off my debt as much as possible. And that allowed me to clear up my credit, and then I actually bought a rental house for my mom. My mom received some inheritance and I invested that money for her. So my first rental property was actually my mom's. We put down $35,000 on a house, and the purchase price was $110,000. We bought the house at exactly the right time at the bottom of the market after the housing crash. I wasn't very good at selecting tenants, and I actually evicted my first two tenants, and after that I had a tenant that was there for years. And I gotta tell you, with a 15-year loan, he paid off a large portion of that house. So again, we bought the house for $110,000. We kept it for years, and soon the housing market came back and the house went up to about $230,000. Then we sold the house. We sold my house and my mom's house in 2018. We took those houses and we reinvested it here in Ohio. The reason why I'm telling you this, guys, is because you just don't know what type of opportunities you're going to have in the future. If you pay your debt off now, and you're disciplined in making money and doing the right thing with your money and your debt, you know, you may receive inheritance or some money, or some doors may open, but it's up to you to make the right decisions and to make that money grow for you. And although I never used my mom's money or the house in any way for myself, I do have to say it does look good in my name. In other words, the creditors would see my house and my mom's house, and they would see, wow, you have two houses and both of those houses are halfway paid off, so you're doing really good. And that allowed me to get my third house, my fourth house, my fifth and sixth, and by the time I retired from the Air Force, I had 6 houses. So just because you're in a negative situation, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be there for long. You may be in that Geo Metro, you might have that spare tire for months, but if you make some good decisions and you get out there and you're crushing it, and if you're strategic with your money will eventually work for you. One more thing, guys, I'm going to share with you the link to that contract site just in case you would like to serve your country as a contractor and make the big bucks. Goodbye for now, guys, and thank you for watching. Take care.